The United States' bombardment of Venezuela and the capture of President Nicolás Maduro mark a dramatic escalation in Washington's long history of intervention in South and Central America. But this moment stands apart. For the first time, the US has carried out a direct military strike on a South American country and taken its sitting president into custody. Speaking after the operation, US President Donald Trump framed the action as a decisive assertion of American power in the Western Hemisphere, declaring that US dominance in the region would no longer be questioned. Historically, the United States has shaped political outcomes in Latin America through sanctions, covert operations, invasions, and even regime change efforts. The closest parallel to the present crisis dates back to 1989. When US forces invaded Panama and captured dictator Manuel Noriega. Yet Venezuela now represents a far more consequential precedent. Following Maduro's capture, the Trump administration made it clear that Venezuela's vast oil reserves are central to Washington's strategic calculus. Trump indicated that American oil companies would be deeply involved in Venezuela's energy sector, pointing to the scale and global dominance of US firms. Vice President J.D. Vance reinforced his position, stating that Maduro had been offered multiple opportunities to step back but had failed to comply with US demands. According to Vance, Washington's red lines were clear. Drug trafficking had to stop, and oil that the US claims was stolen had to be returned. Notably, while US airstrikes targeted military and government assets, the Venezuelan state-owned oil company PDVSA was spared. In recent months, however, the US had already tightened pressure by blockading oil tankers and seizing Venezuelan crude shipments. The timing of Maduro's capture is significant. It came just one day after he publicly signaled willingness to negotiate with Washington on drug enforcement cooperation and oil investments, including expanded partnerships with American firms such as Chevron. Maduro had accused the US of seeking regime change to gain access to Venezuela's energy resources, arguing that Washington was using threats and force to impose its will. Soon after the military operation, US Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed that Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, had been indicted in the Southern District of New York. The charges include narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation, and possession of heavy weapons. Bondi said the couple would face trial in US courts and praised the military operation that led to their capture. US prosecutors alleged that Maduro ran a drug trafficking network responsible for flooding the United States with cocaine, claiming that several tons of narcotics were directly linked to him. Trump announced a successful nighttime operation on social media hours after the strikes took place, confirming that Maduro and Flores had been flown out of Venezuela. The Venezuelan government responded by urging citizens to mobilize against what it described as imperialist aggression. Authorities accused the United States of attempting to seize control of Venezuela's oil and mineral wealth under the cover of law enforcement and counter-narcotics efforts. The operation did not come out of the blue. More than a month earlier, the US State Department had designated the Cartel de los Soles, an organization Washington alleges is led by Maduro, as a foreign terrorist organization. According to US officials, the group has infiltrated Venezuela's military, intelligence agencies, and political institutions and collaborated with other transnational criminal networks to traffic drugs into the US and Europe. The term Cartel de los Soles originated in the 1990s as slang for corrupt Venezuelan military officers involved in drug trafficking. International reactions to the US operation have been sharply divided. Venezuela's opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Maria Machado welcomed Maduro's capture, calling it a turning point for the country. She said that the moment marked the beginning of accountability and justice after years of failed negotiations. Within the United States, criticism also emerged. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani condemned the military action as an act of war and a violation of international law, warning that it could have serious consequences for Venezuelan communities living in the US. He later said he had directly conveyed his objections to President Trump. Inside Venezuela, the political vacuum was swiftly addressed. A day after Maduro's detention, the country's Supreme Court appointed Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as acting president. The court said the move was necessary to ensure administrative continuity and national defense during what it described as the president's forced absence. It added that further deliberations would determine the legal framework for maintaining state authority and sovereignty. As Venezuela enters a period of uncertainty, the implications extend far beyond its borders. The US operation raises fundamental questions about international law, regime change, and the future of American intervention in Latin America.